anyway, they're over in Europe, and I thought this was just like an update because here's, Amazon has launched flights. And I go, oh wow. So I'm literally like, my lunch is like a little cup of nuts and a piece of cheese that I've grabbed really quick because I'm prepping for my next. So I just go, oh, I tweet this out and I have enough time to VPN into India and, kind of open India and, kind of open it up and go, oh, look at this. This must be the talk of the conference. And I guess it wasn't. I think whoever posted it to the little Focusrite analyst email bucket, I don't know if they found it on their own. I'm not sure where they heard of it. But anyway, I tweeted it, and apparently I broke the story apparently, and then
Nice.
yeah, my friend Dennis Shaw from Skift, who I'd seen last week in Cancun because we were both speaking at a conference. He posted it, gave me full credit and everything, which didn't sit well with the Focusrite folks.
So for people to understand, what are we really talking about here? What's happening that's making the wave?
Well, Amazon. Have you heard of Amazon, Lauren? It's I don't know. I think they sell books or
That's a
something like
river
that
in
online.
Egypt, isn't it? Or is that the Nile? The Nile.
Yeah,
Denial.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So Amazon I think has had, this would be now foray number 5 into travel, right? They started off doing something with Expedia, they did something with Overstock.com. I think they tried something on their own. They did some sort of short-term hotel local bookings type thing, all of which plugs were pulled on within, normally 6 to 18 months. Oh, and here comes an echo.
We have an echo?
I did. Yep. So anyway, um, so what the interesting thing is in India, they have something called Amazon Pay, which is, similar to Google Pay and Apple Pay, that sort of thing. You have your profile, you can buy things on Amazon, and it goes. And Amazon work, very similarly to the way it works over here, but in India, the big thing is, well, and in China are these super apps, which are like WeChat, where you can do anything, right? You can pay for things, you can buy things, you can get food delivered, you can buy goods, whatever it may be, all happens on one screen in one app. So this was kind of Amazon's foray into that. And what do you know? ClearTrip, which is a Indian online travel agency, which is backed by Concur, predominantly. I don't know how much, what their share is of it, but SAP Concur has certainly invested in them in several rounds. Um, Amazon has partnered with them, and they have a little button that says flights. So you click on it, and what do you see? A big thing that they'll write down something up to 1,500 rupees or something like that on your flight, and you kind of go, oh, that's pretty interesting. Here's kind of it's a closed group, for all the hotel rate parity geeks. It's a similar thing. Here's a closed group. Amazon has some fares. They can go give you a rebate because, hey, they're the merchant of record sort of thing. It's
Right.
getting, sold through Amazon Pay, or at least, there's probably a secondary transaction to the. I haven't gone through and actually made a booking, but ClearTrip will let you select any origin destination pair around the world. It isn't, that part isn't limited to India. So yeah, 300 million plus users, globally. So it's a massive, massive footprint. And those Prime members, that's the most powerful loyalty program subscription service on the planet. I mean, people go to Amazon and they are not shopping. It's a thorn in Google's side for trying to get into the shopping arena. They have a very, very powerful platform with a very, very dedicated group of users, right? So it's so it's anything Amazon does,
people are more than willing to pay for it. And if you figure, if you start mixing these things up, like with the Whole Food acquisition, and it's still weird for me to walk into a grocery store and see Amazon Prime rates for food products.
Absolutely.
It's just one of these things where it's like, yeah, that's right. And you begin to think like that there's a whole strata of people that this is a cultural connection to them. This is what they do. This is how they interact. Amazon Go stores there's more of them, and they're going to continue to grow out farther and farther. They're going to be in more and more markets.
Amazon Go stores don't have cashiers, right? They use some very sophisticated, facial recognition, scanning technologies, things like that to figure out what you picked up and what you walked out of the store with. And they've eliminated the friction. I mean, Amazon, even from the beginning, when they bought I think they licensed the Net Perceptions collaborative filtering engine, right, which generated recommendations. It was these guys out of the University of Minnesota who are doing some pretty interesting stuff. I believe Amazon licensed that early on. So everything they do also is highly machine learning, prediction based. What are your preferences? What would you like? People who bought this also bought that. If you like this, you might like that, based on massive quantities of information. So when Amazon starts understanding not just what what kind of and how often you buy dog food or whatever, because now they have subscription services. They have Prime Now, where you can get, I live in Dallas, you can get things delivered within an hour or two.
And they're actually advancing some of the same day shipping now, outside of, because they're expanding other moderate markets now, that it's just not the Dallases, the New Yorks, the Miamis of the world. There's the Memphises, the Cincinnatis that are getting same day service too. And they beyond the Amazon now, which is they can be done in 2 hours. I mean, it's
amazing. So, and most importantly, what they do is when they enter a new vertical. Now, I don't believe this will happen in travel, but when they make a mention, they're going into pharmaceuticals, the Whole Foods thing, when they're going into groceries, even a mention of their intention to do so winds up generally cratering the shares of the competitive stocks in that sector, right? To the point where there's this massive market capitalization drop on the competitors, but then Amazon's market cap goes up more than the value of the drop of the competitors. And you look at it and go, wow, that's pretty damn powerful. So so I think people should know about that. And actually, Morgan Stanley, Brian Nowak at Morgan Stanley had published a piece on kind of risks to Google, because Google had their big marketing event this week as well. And so, yeah, it was kind of like, hey, one of the risks is Amazon doing stuff. And hey, where's Google get a lot of ad revenue is travel. So obviously that would be a risk if someone large came in and entered travel. And who could do that? Amazon sort of thing. So
now since we're talking about giants, and we did hit the because you were the breaking story maker for that for the rest of the world,
inadvertently, not trying to do that. Just I was really kind of surprised that it was in India and it was flights. I mean, it makes really, really good sense for them to do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I was really surprised and kind of excited about it. So I tweeted.
Now, let's talk about the other one. And we're not talking about the 800-pound gorilla, as Tim Peter says. It's actually the monster that devours the 800-pound gorilla, Google and Google Travel. Now that IO9 is done.
Yes.
And they did their announcements and so forth. I think, I was talking to Ed St. Ange, who, of course, can't make it today. So we get to abuse him. Also, Stuart said he can't make it.
Oh, my God. Is he?
And
are those Are those three incarcerated again?
Yes, unfortunately, the restraining orders are legit, and they. But anyway, so Ed was talking about the fact he was dealing with the DMOs, and he just came back from a DMO Google gathering, and the DMOs were, as he said, pale-faced because they were really realizing now Google's play, what Google is truly doing in the travel vertical space. And if anybody has any questions about this, you can go to google.com/travel and welcome to the world of Google Travel, because it's all there now. I mean, it's just a beginning part.
Well,
it's
just starting. Yeah.
It's only just begun. Yeah. Well,
yeah. So yeah, Google has put a lot of effort into flights, right? Because they bought ITA Travel, which was Jeremy Wertheimer's, startup out of MIT. I think they bought it 2010, maybe 2010ish, sort of thing. But what ITA Travel was the backbone for Orbitz, right? That was kind of the big play, and for a lot of the airlines, it allowed it to really very much more efficiently price their flights, because before they had been kind of, think of it as like a file-based loading system, right? Where you'd say, oh, the flight's originating in Houston and it's flying to Newark or something like that. So Continental Airlines at the time could post those flights, and that's fine. However, there might be a flight that would go from Houston to maybe Raleigh, Durham, or something like that, and then from Raleigh, Durham, connecting into Newark, which might be less expensive, but when you connected those two segments. But Continental kind of structurally didn't know about that, because that's not how they filed their fares. Well, ITA broke up all the segments and could scramble them around and combine carriers and do all sorts of really interesting stuff. And then all of a sudden they went, oh, look at this. This is making us as airlines more efficient too, if we can wind up doing these things in terms of how we price this stuff. So anyway, they bought about $700 million, and they didn't have any hotel people involved and didn't really do hotels. They've done some things in hotels, but now the latest one, starting last year, is they moved the hotels, all the hotel price ads or whatever they called them over the years. They moved that onto the basic, core Google AdWords platform, or again, what their advertising platform, again, whatever they're calling it these days. They tend to change it every year or two. But yeah, now all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of those pillars are more active. The third pillar was they had a trips function, which went and scanned your Gmail and went and said, oh, I see an itinerary. Let's pop this up. Looks like you're going to Minneapolis in June, sort of thing. And then would give you restaurant recommendations, all sort of little walking city tours, all sorts of stuff of what you do in the destination.
Okay,
all separate, non-integrated whatsoever.
Right, but so I see what you're saying with this, but maybe I saw the more ominous aspect of this, not just from the article that I put into the chat link. By the way, the really cool function with Restream that I have, because we're simulcasting on 4 Facebook platforms and 3 3 YouTube platforms, and 2 Periscope platforms at the same time. The lights are dimming in South Florida. Anyway, so but there's a new function in Restream.
Lauren, we need a 12-step program. Anybody watching who knows of a 12-step program for streaming technologies, please have them reach out. Intervention for Lauren Gray.
Intervention for Lauren. So it has a universal chat function now that I can monitor all the chats on all of them at the same time and simulchat on all of them in answer. So as I post stuff on our webinar jam, I can then copy and paste it over and share it on all those platforms at the same time as well. I thought it was like pretty cool. Anyway, so
that is
what I saw on this travel thing, which scares me, is the little package button.
Oh, and it sucks. By the way,
I'm not
really bad.
It's worrying me. It's what it's going to become that worries me.
Oh no, absolutely. And having worked on the team that got the U.S. patent for dynamic packaging, almost 20 years ago. So, or at least we started working on it 20 years ago. The packaging side is very, very potentially powerful. So what Google's done now, the big announcement, this week was that they've now put kind of I don't know, what would you put, a home page to travel? So they kind of have, you can go to it. If you go to your, if you search for hotels in New York or something like that, the page that you go to is the hotels page, right? Which was, which again was kind of resurrected. It used to exist years ago. It got sunset. It's now back. But on the left side, there's a little, there's a little column there that goes, flights and trips and some other, packages and other stuff. I think it's Explore and things like that. So all of a sudden you can start getting to other things. So
the explore button, because obviously with its connectivity to what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and all my Gmail stuff, which by the way, I don't know if people are aware of the fact, but Google 360, if you're in that space of data collection, that all of your cross device usages, because of your Google ID, that data is available for interpretation and filtering, which is scary because that is amazing. That turns into behavioral data, even from a marketer's point of view. That's like, oh my gosh, I can learn so much just from engagements and stuff. But anyways,
and it's advanced signals, right? Well, if I go to again, Google and their typical kind of kludgy, I don't know if this is a top priority for Google, because they do have Richard Holden, who's a very, very strong product lead, who's been with Google since, probably 2000, very, very early, right? His email is just kind of his first name at Google, right? So anyway, they have that, but it's google.com/travel, but it's called Trips, right? So there's still kind of some kludgy type things to it. But when you go to that page, I look at potential trips. Well, what do I see? Park City. Yeah, I'm going to Park City in August for a HTNG meeting. Minneapolis. Yeah, I'm going there in June for another thing. Now there's Thackerville, which I have absolutely no idea why it's on there. But then they've got Salt Lake City. Well, that's near Park City. Cancun, I was there last week. Nuevo Vallarta, no idea, but maybe Google is looking at that again, saying, if you're looking at Cancun, a lot of people look at Cancun, also look at Vallarta as well. Right. They've got Austin. I was there over the weekend. Vienna, not sure why it's there, but I was in northern Italy a couple, like last month. Paris, and then some others. San Francisco, Hollywood, Florida. I actually did a search for something or other. New York. And then they give me popular destinations. So those are all ones. And when you look at it, it says potential trips, travel suggestions based on your recent activity. And the little information button says, where do these trips come from? Potential trip recommendations are based on your recent searches, saves, and other activity. Learn more. And they give you something to go modify your settings. So if you want to go dig through that, you can say, don't share this. So they are now, and they have past trips, right? They have my trip to Florence, Italy, or trips to Italy,
what's going to happen is
trips to Milwaukee, things like that.
Of the world, their model has an end of the road line to it. because in this past trips and so forth, and Google's ability to keep track and so forth, and its ability, and this has been a long-standing ability for you to incorporate check-ins via Gmail. Like, do you want to check into your hotel now? You can, you as a hotel owner can actually do that. You can build that so that your hotel can function like that. And membership and connectivity to memberships and so forth, your flights, check into your flight. So all of that functionality is there, and it's the predetermination as to what you're doing, and it's post-determination of what you're interested in. The worlds of TripIt are numbered, because that functionality will be less than what you're actually getting for free engaged with your normal platform of Gmail.
Right. Well, except though for TripIt, who owns TripIt? Oh, it's Concur, right?
Yeah.
So, and SAP, who's now working not directly, but kind of with Amazon. So who knows, right? Who knows how all this stuff winds up.
They might have to take a left turn versus a right turn and join forces with one point while they're working against another. And yes, it is true. I mean, I use TripIt incessantly. I mean, that's my de facto point of truth when it comes to my travel plans.
So do I. TripIt has saved my ass so many times, right? Yep. And I've used it actually. Oddly, I've used it for my daughter too, because I'll throw in some of her things into it and say, "Hey, your flight's canceled. Here's an alternate flight you can look at." Right? And she's like, "What?" And it's like, "No, march over to wherever and ask them if you can get on such and such flight."
Now before the horde runs over that way. Yeah, because nowadays people do use the airline apps, and the airline apps tend to be latent when it comes to TripIt's been pretty good about being ahead of it.
Right. Yeah, which is really funny. I was at O'Hare. This was several years ago. I was at O'Hare, evening flight, a flight that's often scrubbed by United from Chicago to Milwaukee, short flight, right? If they don't have a load coming back in the morning, I'm not saying that they scrubbed it because they wanted to save the crew time and the fuel and all that, but kind of maybe looked like that. Yeah. So maybe not causation, but high correlation. but anyway. So I go up, I get a little TripIt notification, and there's the gate agent, and there's the crew standing like, it's a regional jet, so it's, a couple pilots and flight attendants. And I go, "Hey, so what's the deal with this not going to Milwaukee? Because the plane's there." Right. And the pilots go, "Oh, no, we're going to Milwaukee because it's, one of the pilots' birthdays, and we've got steaks waiting for us at, whatever steakhouse, and we're ready to roll." I go, "I don't think so." And they're like, "Well, that's wrong." And it's like, well, how can TripIt be wrong? I mean, they got the message from someplace, and if it was scrambled, you mean the scrambled transmission for a different flight happened to come up with your flight number and got sent? I don't think so.
Well, I mean, I was even sitting in an airport where the gate information, the boards were wrong, and they stayed wrong for a long time, where the gates had changed.
But that's also, well, when the gates change, that's just ineptitude on the part of the airline, right? There's something wrong, or there's something wrong with the airport getting that communication out.
Right.
Who knows how it's structured. I mean, in some cases,
TripIt a lot more because of that. But
but airlines will now not post changes. They will string along delays. If there are nonstop flights going on competitive airlines, with seats available, the last thing they want to do is say, "Oh, we've got a 90-minute delay." People go, "Hey, I want the United flight instead of Delta or whatever." And all of a sudden they lose all that revenue, and those tickets, wind up going over there. Now, again, there are ones where Spirit doesn't participate in those, and Southwest, things like that. Yeah, where they don't have that reciprocity, but where they do, and that's where TripIt Pro comes in. That's how they get my $50 or $60 a year. It says, here are more flights on the same airline, and then here are other airlines, and then you can do time windows really quickly and go, great. So all of a sudden you can go to somebody with armed with the information saying, "Change me to this flight, please," right? And you can give them all the information. Here are the flight times, here are the flight numbers, something so they can do it quick, because time is of the essence. Once they start rolling everybody on, the 180 seats onto other flights, if you're trying to go someplace on Friday night, they might book you on Sunday whenever the next available seat's available, depending on, the sequence of that rolling. But you got to act fast. TripIt is great at that. But we digress.
Oh, we digress. Yes. Hey, I want to show you some.
I wanted to say with the packages, they are doing very, very poorly at this point.
Right.
And I've said this many times, there are 5 types of packaging, and this will happen at some point, but the industry's horrible at it. Number 1 is like your typical, oh, that includes a free continental breakfast, right? It's the supplier providing value adds on their own product. Oh, it's free rounds of golf and carts and things like that. Well, the current user interfaces, even on just buying a hotel, if you're looking at a resort, you go, oh wow, that's $300, $300 a night instead of $200. But then you can, if you don't realize, oh, that includes, golf and cart rental, that might be an incredible deal, right? That could just be amazing, but you can't really tell. So that's number 1 is the value add. Number 2 is what all the groups like Expedia and everybody does. That's bundling stuff together. They're just taking components, moving them around, and doing stuff with that. Well, I shouldn't say Expedia. Expedia is doing dynamic packaging as well, when they're actually figuring out the pricing, right? Because they'll look at the bundle and then look at the different underlying component costs. They'll look at their costs or the retail prices of those components. They'll look at their underlying costs on the component. They'll look at the competitors of who's selling these things and then go, oh, save 5% or $200 or whatever if you bundle it together and prepay. Right. Mm-hmm. So that's a little bit more on dynamic packaging, not what the patent says. The patent's a little bit different. We don't have time to go into the patent, but the patent. is much, much better and much more supplier and consumer friendly. So there are 3 more. That's 3 of them. So people aren't really doing dynamic packaging quite the right way, which really, really efficiently lowers prices. But then the 4th one is kind of sequential packaging, right? It's do you want fries with that? Oh, you bought an airline ticket. You haven't, bought air, which Concur is trying to do very effectively. If you may have noticed in TripIt, you load a hotel thing and it goes, hey, you don't have any air. Here's some flights, and they also own, whatchamacallit? I forgot the name of it. Hipmunk, right? So they say, hey, do you need a flight on Hipmunk? Which is great, except Hipmunk doesn't support Delta, right? Delta doesn't play with Hipmunk, which is kind of a bad thing. So anyway, they do some things like that. Would you like fries with that? And then the 5th one is distributed packaging, which please contact rockcheetah.com for consulting advice on that. Truly innovative and earth-shaking method of packaging, which will eventually rule the industry. But anyway. But anyway, on this, right now, Google is doing, I'll use a technical term, shitty job of packaging. It's really pretty disgraceful. So,
yes.
Anyway.
No, by far, it's not right now where it's going to be by any stretch. The scary part, as I said before, was the fact that it's there. It's predominantly there. And it's going to be a growing functionality of engagement, because as you do the explorations versus discoveries versus the intent versus the decision process, it's prevalently there as an option of any of those stages. And it's going to have more and more value as it gets more and more included into the process. So, so you probably got the same email I did from Stuart as to what he thought was, he wanted to solicit everybody as to what he thought would be innovations that would be unsettling to our industry. Okay.
I did.
And I did have a chance to chat.
Can I throw in one last closing thought on Google and the hotel stuff though?
Sure.
The other thing, I think I mentioned this before, I'm a Google One member, right? Which gives you expanded disk space. So it's kind of like the expanded Google Drive program. But now that I'm a Google One member, I am eligible for hotel discounts. So when I go and look at these, I can go through and see, oh, here's a hotel that has, a discounted rate on it, which is a private rate, which isn't violating anyone's rate parity because it's hidden behind a firewall and of a login and things like that. So yeah, I can see special rates that other people don't see, which are generally well below the rates offered by the hotels themselves to their own customers, which is again fair play, right? But all of a sudden you start looking at that with Google, and the big thing is it's all the intent, right? Travel intent, as you know, for advertising. If you can start understanding these people intend to travel someplace, that is if that's a reliable signal, you have a huge advantage. And boy, that's certainly where Google's playing. And getting back to Amazon, why are they doing flights in India? Well, that's a huge predictor of, you're getting on an airplane, you're going someplace. I think you might, be needing some things like luggage, clothing. Hey, you need a swimsuit to go on your trip. Who knows the stuff that you wind up needing, right? So
very true, and that's where
watch out. Anyway, but on to Stuart's innovation things. Yeah.
Yes. So for people to know, at HITECH this year in June, Fuel Travel has got a booth. And we have decided that we're going to do the live show and do live broadcasting from HITECH. I don't think the live show is going to be on Friday. HITECH will be over by then. So the show itself will still be as scheduled. But during the course of HITECH, especially on the Heavy Expo day, not the Rock day, we're going to do live show. We're going to do interviews and so forth from the booth. But then we were talking about, he was asking about what I thought was things that are going to change our scope of things. And I was very excited about a new toy that I got. And I got my new toy to go on my trip to the Netherlands with, and it's this.
It's a box. It's a black box.
It is a 5.7K 360 camera. 5.7K.
Oh, that's better than 4K.
Yeah, I don't even have a TV that can see this stuff well. But anyway, but this little jobber right here, and the stabilization software, I can walk like this and it just stays rock steady. And at 5.7K, there's the editing software on the app. Before, 360 was always a pain in the butt. You know that I've been into this stuff for a while. To stitch the stuff, to put the stuff together, and you needed such processing power. There were massive files. This stuff all exists here.
Wow.
And the app controls.
So wait, it's a 360 camera? So does it have multiple cameras, or what's
the... there's one on this side.
Okay. Kind of hard to... Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But that's not the real super sexy part about it. This is the real super sexy part about it.
What is that? You make stereo cameras?
This makes 5.7K 180-degree 3D video.
Ooh. Wow.
VR stuff.
Yeah.
Where you can walk in now, okay? Because here's where the combination where I think is powerful for this is people, they're the VR stuff, dropping your phone into it, or having, Oculus Quest is now finally coming out where you don't need a supercomputer to run the damn thing. Just have goggles in your hand grips and it runs itself, okay? people are into this perspective, this POV point of stuff, and this is in 5.7K high, ultra high def, and it's in 3D. It's in because that's why you have the two lenses, so you get the dimensional aspect to this. Okay, and you can now with the software, you point where you want the viewer to see. Like when I take a video, I put a keep marker on where I want the view to go to, and where I want the view to go to again, and what I want to zoom in or not zoom in.
Right.
And I can put, and with this, I can go transitionally from one place to another. So I could bring somebody to a resort,
right?
Have put on their VR, or it also comes really cool. It comes with a case you put on your phone, and it creates a 3D holo image on your phone, so you can look at it in 3D on your phone.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow. So, and the controls for this are all on the app on the phone?
Right. Well, here's the thing. To just do video and pictures, you can run it right from the camera. You put it onto your pod, and you hit and say, I want to do a video, I want to do a picture, and you just hold it and do whatever you want to do with it.
So how much storage does it have for?
128 gigabyte.
Gig?
Yep.
Okay. So in 5.7K, that gives you what? 3 minutes? No, I'm just kidding. That's a big file.
Almost an hour worth of it, strangely enough.
An hour? Wow. That's great.
Yeah, but the thing of it is that, okay, so I have this. I'll put the link up. It has a selfie stick. Oh, it makes the selfie stick disappear, by the way. So it looks like it's always in space because it stitches everything automatically. Plus, it has a mount for a drone, so you can hang it below the drone, above the drone.
I knew it. I knew that would be coming. But so wait, does it have a forehead mount, or do you just have to super glue it to your forehead? Is that the? if you have the kind of the construction hard hat with the two beer cans with the things, you can put it right in the middle.
All the GoPro mounts work on this. So I can have it on my chest, I can have it on my head, I can have it anywhere, I can have it on my wrist. But here's the fun part. I'll put the link for you on it. But there's a selfie stick. It's called a 360, and you put this up in a 360 mode, and you spin it around. You spin it, and it does a matrix.
And you can give your viewers vertigo in 3D. Excellent.
No. It does the matrix thing because what you do is in the editor.
Bullet time.
In the editor, you can slow down, speed up. You can do accelerated, hyper, and slow down, and so what you could do is when you do that, everybody throws up confetti and stuff like this, and you go spin this around. All of a sudden, it's like all slow mo, and you're going everything's in 3D.
So wait, will you be demonstrating this at High Tech in the Fuel Travel booth? Are we going to build like a large ramp where you can take your BMX bike and do this, and then do your backflip, spin the camera while you do it there in the actual exhibit hall? Is that what you're planning?
I'll give you the link to the site so you can see why I'm so stoked about this.
Okay, and what is the retail selling price, or did you wind up getting this on AppSumo?
No, Amazon denial.
The only thing Lauren has ever purchased not through AppSumo
is on Amazon, right? No, $400. This is what gets me. This is the thing that gets me crazy. Is this stuff? Any innovative hotelier who wants to get themselves into the space of discovery, and this is why I brought up Stuart's conversation first. To me, this is disruptive because it's not going to be heavily adopted. Not everybody in the world is going to run out and buy these things, but the ones that can value proposition this, if you can create content that is engaging content through all the levels of discovery engagements that you have, because you have that product capability of doing this, this is crazy cool stuff because it goes beyond two things. One, the exposure of your product to a potential guest, and secondly, your guest's ability to share their experience to their audiences of people that they communicate with. Because for me, as geeking out, I'm going to be walking around with this thing. I'm going to be all through Holland posting crazy 3D pictures on Facebook. Because you can do those 3 parallax pictures. That's what this thing does. I can do still shots like that. I can do 3D videos that people can go over and YouTube can go watch. On Periscope, I can do it. And when I go do my presentation on Wednesday, I'm going to pipe this thing on, and I'm going to do 360 on YouTube and Periscope so that somebody can sit where this thing's sitting at. And the resolution is sick. I mean, it is amazing that the clarity of this thing. I don't know whether you're peeking at the website for it and stuff, but the clarity of the picture, the horizon line, because this was my old 360 camera. And it was getting quirky, and I'm like, and I look at my software and I'm like, oh crap, I haven't updated my software for 3 years. Go back. Company's been out of business for 2 years.
Right. Yeah.
They crashed and burned. This was supposed to be the most progressive, newest, bestest thing. And then I start getting in researching is like, oh, management was stealing money and
the bleeding edge, life at the bleeding edge of shiny object technology.
Shiny object technology. So then I started looking for 360 because I wanted one. And then I came across this one. Its brother, which is just a pure 360, is super thin.
Yeah.
And it does, I mean, that's what you see a lot of the videos of. This one just came out last week. And it's for $399, but the editing capabilities, the hyperspeed, the slowing down, they have a little styrofoam Nerf thing that they put it in that they just throw it. Because the thing is, it's shooting in 360, so you don't have to make sure the camera's angled somewhere. But in the software edit, if you throw the little Nerf thing, then in the software edit, you picture where you want the person to see as it goes under the skateboarder, and then it comes down to where, you know. It's crazy because you have a complete range to see this. And the cool part is, like it says, it makes the selfie stick disappear. So you're always in this perpetual you can look down on the ground. You can look up at the sky, you know, any which direction you want to.
Wow. I'm just looking up one of the things, Crunchbase is a great tool, right? So you can look at these startups and see who are these guys. Wow, they've only been funded for $30 million. That's not a huge amount of money. Let's see. Late stage venture, so they've been around for a little while. They've had 4 funding rounds.
Cameras for quite a
while. So they've let's see, who is the.
And they do professional cameras as well, and the top 360 consumer ones are theirs as well.
Yeah.
But it's a crazy fun camera. I'm just gonna have a blast with it when I'm traveling next couple of weeks. I mean, if anything, I'm getting 18 megapixel camera.
Yeah,
it's the size of this.
Yeah, Chinese investors, IDG Ventures is in there. That's and it looks like they've done this for not a huge. I mean, 30 million for a hardware company is, I mean, it's real money, but it's for something like this, that's pretty interesting. So
and then you can just look on your phone whenever you're ready to in 360. You know, give you a little thingy for that, and just I'm stoked with the idea of it because with me and the cameras, I mean that's my broadcast camera that we do on the go, and then we have the the 360 one, and then I have the one we do for the live show and stuff. So it's like the technology is there, the innovation is there. It's the usability that people have to interpret to, and being able to do now your own incredible quality content. And this doesn't take a rocket scientist to walk around. You put it on your selfie stick, you walk into your lobby talking, or your audio over it, and the app runs it. It's not like I need a super magnificent computer that has a heavy graphics card and tons of storage. It handles all of it.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's my new toy.
Wow. Yeah.
But I put the link up there for those on the show to watch. The Insta360. The one I'm talking about is the Evo, which is their latest one, which does the 180 3D, in addition to 360. There's one sacrifice I did have to give with this one compared to the 360, its brother, the one that's pure, just only 360. Everything's identical, resolution, software, everything's fine. But because in order to make this bioptic in the front, the box is a little wider, so when you make it 360, if you get within a foot, the stitching will blend the edges together because there's a gap point. Where on the other one it's built purposely to be super thin, so there is no gap point on the stitch. So that's the only mindful. But I mean, I was willing to sacrifice that to have the 180 aspect to it. So I was like, I can do that.
Yeah, no, these guys, they've got some hardcore Chinese venture groups behind them and things like that, which is good. So yeah, this one, well, I mean, they could decide just to kill the product, but this one may have a higher probability of survival than your previous camera.
And it still runs, but I mean, this company lasted 5 or 6 years. What happened was as I was looking at Glassdoor and stuff, the management started lying to the team as to the longevity of the company. They weren't reinvesting into the product development. And eventually they squandered because this stuff was sitting in Best Buy. This was the camera, and but it just didn't get maintained, and other competitors came out with different stuff at cheaper prices.
Right. Yeah, you got to keep once you see the software updates and the firmware updates, things like that stopping. That's I got a Pono player, which was a Neil Young super high quality audio, kind of MP3 player, beyond MP3 player, right? It was it did all sorts of other different formats, which were really great. But yeah, it eventually died. And they could have really changed the world. It's really good. I mean, the technology is fantastic, but they didn't have the runway in terms of having enough funding, enough relationships with the music publishers and things like that, and the artists to make it go.
I had
right?
enough money, I would have bought Leonard Nimoy's Laserdisc. Okay, Mr. Spock was pushing the Laserdisc. I would have picked that laser record. I would have picked that bad boy up,
I own a Laserdisc player. I'm looking at it right there.
The big.
I own one. It's still fun. I have my audio, video, entertainment tech stack is an Onkyo receiver that I've had for years. I've got my cable box. It's an Aris cable box.
Because back then, was
Super Beta Hi-Fi. I still have. I've got a VHS Hi-Fi, still operating, a Panasonic Blu-ray player, and a Roku turntable, which works very nicely, and my Pioneer Laserdisc player.
I actually have the HHD player that came with the Sony Xbox that was in competition with Blu-ray. Remember that? It was It lost. It went the Betamax way. It was the wrong horse to back. But
superior technology does not always win.
Always win. I mean, no, it doesn't.
Betamax was much better than VHS, and Sony tried to corner the market, and they had 6 other companies who ganged up on them and yanked it away. Right. So
I think on my trip I'm going to blog, which I don't tend to normally do. I usually just write stuff. I'm going to try to blog a little bit about how to use tech when traveling to share your experiences, and also from the business perspective, what would be something we would ask our guests who are shareable people that want to be influencers. What is it that you would want from them? Like, what kind of stuff could you play with? Like this camera, like, being able to dialogue with audiences, like being able to do live casting, because that's the other thing too. I plug this into the right thing and I can live cast from it. So, what would we think would be usable? So I think I want to try to write some stuff up.
And not that Flip2 would be a viable platform to have information. I don't know. Talking about kind of sketchy company.
The guy that runs that thing's pretty sketchy. Yeah, Ed St. Ange. Anybody who can't spell their last name correctly,
Stonge. I think it's Stonge. I think it's pronounced Stonge. I'm pretty
Stonge?
Sure. I think it's Ed Stonge. Yeah, I think so. So, and that's what you get, Ed, for not coming on the show. No, but no, I think something like that.
And we can just say Tim Peters. Put the S on the tail.
Yeah. So, but I think once you get this, I mean, certainly a lot of the Flip2 clients are discovering, hey, guess what? Some of these guests are really shooting better stuff than we can, because it's relevant, and they're using little tools or technology or perspectives or whatever, creating content. That's really cool, and that shows the hotel or the destination in a very unique and certainly authentic way. And so to be able to use that and get access to it, that's great. And I do hear whatever you just clicked on is now creating an echo.
I didn't touch anything.
Oh, well, whatever it is, there is a little one. Or a delay, at least I can hear it coming through my headphones after I say it.
Didn't touch a thing. That's weird.
I don't know.
Can you still hear it?
I can try and test. Yeah.
No. Can you still hear an echo? Can you still hear it?
I can still hear an echo. Yeah,
that's bizarre, because nothing's changed on my side. I haven't done anything.
Oh, I don't know. Anyway, I will ignore it.
I'm going to turn the volume down real low, just to make sure I'm not kicking some feedback to it or anything, but move this away a little bit.
I can try this, and that still hear it a little bit. Yeah. Looks like it sounds kind of ambient.
That's interesting. Nothing's really changed. I have the audio dialed down on the desktop, and I get the microphone. I'll move it farther away.
I have no idea why that would that would ever happen. Streaming to 4 YouTube channels and 2 Facebooks and
4
multiple
Periscopes, 4 Facebooks, 2 Periscopes, 3 YouTubes. That's not a lot, is it?
Don't understand how an Echo could pop up in that environment. Jeez,
hey, one thing I have noticed has gotten better. I was having problems with the Restream doing the infinity screen. After a while, it would reboot itself and create a screen within a screen and keep going, and it was kept causing that problem. It seems to have gotten itself fixed, which is cool because, like I said, I mean, I can chat on all of the channels at the same time, monitor the chat on all the channels at the same time, and simulcast. I mean, this is crazy.
Well, and cool. Actually, there is one thing here. I'm trying to figure out how to share your stream. It says, Loren Gray is live now under Hospitality Thought Leaders, right? Where I think you're now publishing these.
Oh, well, our group is not going to be shareable.
Oh, that's right. So one of the links I couldn't. So
yeah, on the page you can. On the page you can share the link. And then my personal one, you can share the link, but on the group one, it's only within the group members itself, which, by the way, I brought up the conversation last week and we didn't have it as a topic this week. I do want to come back to the provisional changes that Facebook is making to groups because it's creating a different value proposition to businesses as to how to use group relationships compared to your page relationships. And I think it's a meritable thing that as these new things with groups are rolling out, what's the value proposition to hoteliers or those who are handling social for hospitality, as to how to facilitate some value proposition with them. So more to come on that because it is something that's progressively happening. So, hey, you wrote a whole mess of cool articles, and thank you so much for that because I felt a little lost these past couple of weeks. I think so. With that, we hit the 2 big ones, which is Amazon in India, with the flights, and we hit with Google on their new, /travel, which
those are pretty big deals. There were some littler ones which were interesting. I mean, Lyft and Hilton just announced a little partnership that can, you can use your Lyft stuff to get free, free nights in hotels.
Are you a Lyft person or an Uber person?
I am a Lyft person.
I'm an Uber person.
Really? Well, now that Dara's there, I really should go back to. But I cut off of Uber in the kind of the days of Travis Kalanick, who is their not so cool.
I got bribed with American Express when I was using my American Express card. They were giving me some credit points and discounts, and I got hooked up with them. Yep. And then because I was using them more, they gave me other discounts. So I kind of kept so I kept the relationship going. Because I tried Lyft a couple times. I didn't like some of the car quality. It gets shady sometimes.
It's the same cars. It's the same drivers do both.
I think I got the luck of the draw that I got somebody that just either started or just decided to take the car off the blocks and start driving it around. But the times I started using Lyft, it was kind of like, really, there's holes in the leather. I mean, holes in the seats. Yeah, okay.
Generally, they're a little bit less expensive than Uber, right? And so. So I'm just kind of playing around with it, but recently I've been using Lyft and have not had issues. Actually, generally speaking, I think with a car, the ride sharing type thing or car hailing. I mean, it's this is not a sharing economy. These are just businesses, right?
Yeah.
That one is what's the price? Because I try to look at these kind of empirically. I try to look at algorithmically. What is the price? What is the time that's expected for them to arrive? And then what's the the time of the destination, right? So you kind of go, what's the trip time? How soon will they be here? How much does it cost? And somewhere between here, there's a weighting that goes, that's the right choice. Right. So I don't.
I mean, I'll look at
I use artificial technology. I employ artificial intelligence, which is my brain, to try to figure that out.
Yeah. I'll see if there's a which for prices first, but then I'll also, if I see a longer wait time than I'm comfortable with on Uber, I'll pop over to Lyft and see if the wait times are any different.
Well, yeah. So are you entering through Google Maps?
I will sometimes to go over and see. What the prices are in compare, like real quick to see what the difference is on them. But then I'll go into Uber itself and look at wait times and see how far away the cars are. And then if I don't like that, then I'll pop over to Lyft and see if the wait times are just as long.
Because you really don't care. It doesn't matter.
Well,
how can I get from point A?
Uber is stumbling over its public offering. I mean, it's still tanking.
Well, and but one of the notes that that I put here was Dara is doing an outstanding job, I think, as being CEO of that company and change. I mean, that is a nasty, nasty company to be the head of. I mean, basically, Uber's business model has been for every $1 you pay to take a ride, they pay $1.30, right? That's not a great business model. And so they're stacking up massive, massive losses, which is certainly not easy. And the whole end game is, when can they get the drivers out of the loop, right? Because then they become profitable, right? I mean, that's the whole thing when things go autonomous.
They just went through a whole mini strike where the drivers are saying they need more money.
Right. And that, when you're losing that much money, paying drivers more is not a great thing, because again, the original process was the surge pricing, which customers hated, which you still see somewhat, but not in the kind of egregious realm it was before, because that was their method when they didn't have many drivers, going, hey, driver, you may be just ready to go to sleep, but hey, the bars are closing, and if you get out here, you could make some serious money, right? So that kind of made some sense, although the consumers hated it, right? So how do you balance that? But anyway, Dara, because a lot of the employees at Uber, okay, here's the IPO, this is great, and all of a sudden they see the share price cratering. He wrote a really, really great, one of the great business letters to employees about, here's something that's going on. And he followed the classic, we've talked about this before. What happens when you have some sort of crisis? You acknowledge it. In this case, you don't really have to apologize, because you just kind of explain the situation of kind of how it occurred, and then you basically say, here's what we're doing about it, and then you try to overcompensate. Well, in this case, it isn't like, oh, we'll go give you a bunch of money and more shares and things like that, but basically, this article basically, came out and said, what did they do really right with this? Because that's a really deflating proposition for all these, all the direct employees and all these drivers, right? All these contractors. He did it quickly. It was direct and honest. It told them what the plan was. It was empathetic, and it was motivating, and he just did a really, really fantastic job with that. So good. Good for him. It's the right way. It's always nice to see business leaders when they do things the right way, instead of just ignoring it and things like that, but really being aware. Which, again, for Uber, with some of the cultural problems they've had, that's super, super important for an organization like that.
So another one of the smaller articles. It was funny that you threw it in there, because it was one that I had also chased down, because I was always interested in how this was going to turn out. Was the TWA Hotel at JFK?
Oh yes, yes.
And it was kind of interesting because I was happy that the article echoed a lot of what I was seeing my friends who have gone through there and stayed there at its opening said about it. And it was not pleasant conversation. All of them have the hopes that this works out. And the article that you put in there also hopes that it all works out. But the reality of it is far from a pleasurable experience at this point. Things aren't working. Stuff is breaking. Staff don't have a clarity as to all the things that they need to know. It's pricey as heck. There's a lot of stuff that, nostalgically, it's beautiful visually. I mean, I love what they did.
Oh yeah,
bringing it back. But it's like, wow, yeah, it's got a little ways to go. But then it echoes what every hotelier who opens a new concept or opens a new product has to realize, that the devil's in the details, and everything has detail. And I think a lot of that, what I hear in this article that you put, and also when I saw my friends posting, had the staff been better, a lot of the
training aspect,
could have been overlooked. Even the pricing would have still just been referred to, but it wouldn't have been echoed and resonated, because the staff was insensitive, the staff was unknowledgeable, the staff was unskilled in what they needed to figure out to get fixing things and working things. And so the key element, again, and I think I echo for the Tim and the Ed and the stewards of everybody else that comes up to co-host with us, is without a good team, everything else can be perfect and you still are miserable.
And part of it, and I don't know the guys at MCR who are the developers of this, generally they have 94 hotels, but vast majority of their portfolio are courtyards and Hilton Garden Inns and Hampton Inns, and they're all select service properties, Residence Inns, things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They did the Highline Hotel. Okay, that's fine. That's 60 rooms, right? They do have the New Yorker as well, but this is a really different product. 500 rooms, 50,000 square feet of meeting space or something. This is a big project.
And you had the attention of one of the world's biggest cities staring at it for years while you were doing
absolutely. And thank God they didn't tear it down and things like that. I mean, because that was certainly something that was going to happen. They preserved it. It's an iconic building, which is just spectacular. Mm-hmm. And hearkening back to the heyday of flying in the 60s and things like that. I mean, all of that is fantastic, but boy, these things don't open themselves, and getting a management team that's experienced, that can handle this scale of operation, and then really make sure all the training and all the details, which costs a lot of money, getting staff in early, and having the guts to say, hey, we're putting this off to X date. I think in this case, they got committed to it. Whenever they committed to a date, the gears started rolling, and it was like, yep, come hell or high water, here we go. And that's not the way to do it. I mean, you want people for this kind of hotel to have their socks blown off and go, wow, everything was fantastic. What a facility. The service was exceptional. And they had things like the point of sale system going down at 4 in the afternoon, elevators stopping,
things like not working, and the staff not knowing how to do anything.
Right. And so that all just screams they were not ready. And people were saying, the comment was they should have opened a week later. And it's like, hey, when your elevators aren't running reliably or whatever is shutting that stuff down, that might not be a 1 week later type thing.
I have New York clients, and we were one of the hotels that were, it was never a hotel before, and we opened to the public as a hotel, was British Airways Crew Hotel. And it had gone through a great renovation, but they had never renovated the elevators. And the owner decided 30 days after this opening to the public that they were going to reno the elevators.
Yeah.
So it's a small footprint, 38 floors. So it's not like it's like only 4 or 5 floors and got a little walking going on. Yeah. It was a critical component to being able to book the rooms.
Absolutely.
One elevator was running, the other one wasn't. So, the wait times and latencies and so forth create huge issues.
Horrible.
We did a gamification for because we were looking for the young urbanite anyway to stay there. So we did things where we put water stations on every other floor. We put tokens, and if you accumulate a lot of tokens, we would give you a Fitbit watch, stuff to incentivize people to know. But we were very forthcoming with it. And then you see a lot of hoteliers that are going to go under the knife on some stuff, nameless as they may be from certain ownership groups in San Diego, and they're trying to hide their renovations.
Right. Yep.
And it's like, you're going to have this blow up. It's not a matter of if, it's when, and you're going to get behind it. You're going to not be in front of it, and you're going to be making amends for stuff that you should have been forthright at the beginning with.
The purpose of a hotel is hospitality and guest service, right? Unless you're just selling shelter. That's fine.
Yeah, if you're a pod hotel, you get what you get.
Yeah, you can sell shelter, and that's fine. It's not raining in there. It's dry. Maybe there's some climate control, so it's not too cold or not too hot. You don't have to have much in the way of furnishings. You could just have a little bedroll out for them. That's fine, and you can abuse people if you get the price low enough, maybe, but. That's not for a hotel like this. We'll see. I mean, they have, they're going to be doing some very, very large events. And they want to have lots of weddings, lots of barbecue. Those are very, very demanding, as you know, very, very demanding events where, you just aren't running 4 of them simultaneously in a place this size. That's the most important event of these individuals' lives, right? And it's not like, hey, we got 75%. We do pretty well on 80%. We're batting pretty well. So, 300 batting average doesn't give you the championship in this league, sort of thing. So, we'll see. I hope they do great. That's what I've said from the beginning. It scared the hell out of me that they hadn't done a lot of, hotels like this in the past, and this, how they launched it, is indicative of that. So I hope they get their act together. The hotel deserves, something great. It should be one of the greatest hotels in the world.
Yeah, and I think simply because of its merit of where it is, what it has been, it will get fixed. It will be that. It may go through some iteration changes as to what's included into that nostalgic part and what has to be functionally available for it.
Yeah.
But it will, and it will be one of those places that you're going to want to hit when you're there. It's going to be a tourist-based operation as a destination thing to do.
Yeah.
Well,
and they're making some weird management decisions. My understanding, now I haven't seen this formally, but people were grousing about it on Twitter and in some Facebook groups, that they are not like working with travel agents. They aren't paying travel agency commissions. They're just, everything's going to be booked direct. Right. And it's like, wow, that's really short-sighted. It's at a freaking airport. It's an iconic travel thing. You want all these travel agents who are like, most of them are complete aviation travel geeks. You want them loving and promoting this thing, and come on. Really, to save that, adjust your pricing structure. Make sure if people are out there, talking it up, as opposed to, no, we aren't going to work with you guys, which just, that does not seem like and again, maybe they're much smarter than me and they're brilliant and they're going to eliminate all those commissions and they're going to book everything directly. But boy, I've never seen a hotel that has had such extreme demand, and especially with 500 rooms at an airport, sort of thing, how they're going to really,
and if anybody's gone through
and optimize all this.
If anybody's gone through JFK, there is nothing in proximity. This is not something.
Oh no, there's some stuff across the street. There's a little hotel row out there, but
no. I'm talking about, if you're going to be there, you're there for what you're there for. It's not because you're going to wander around and hit some dining.
No, that's it. Yeah, you are it. It's not like you're going to just
you're
not going to be able to wander out to the concourses and get
to go around.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah, hey, you're isolated.
So I put up, just to wrap up, this was literally, we hit every topic in the category. Thank you for this. One was Acor, about doing their workspace in Europe, Wojo.
Oh, the co-working. Yeah.
I find Acor getting to be more creative and more interesting day by day. I think that they got some really smart people and they're really beginning to rethink themselves. I'm not saying this is a smart move on their part. I'm not saying it's a great move on their part, but their creativity and how they're approaching their business model, I think is a very open-ended. I respect that they look at these things.
They experiment with a lot of stuff. They're trying a lot of different things. We give Marriott a hard time for having 30 brands. Jean-Claude Bolanos was on a panel that I was moderating last week in Cancun, and he said, "Oh no, they have 38 brands," sort of thing. And I asked him, because I had someone from Posadas. I had Jörn K from Posadas and Jean-Claude. And basically said, how many brands is too many? And there's not a right answer for that. It's how are they differentiated, and what ones are relevant to consumers, period. And if you have brands that aren't well differentiated and aren't relevant, that's too many. Sort of thing. And if you have two of them, and if the second one is like that, or if your first brand is like that, if you only have one brand and it's not differentiated and not relevant, you're one too many as well. So it's interesting how they do it. But yeah, Accors try a lot of things, and we'll see. And they pivot. I think it's kind of the fail quickly type thing. I mean, they did a lot of stuff with fast booking, thinking they could get their own kind of play the OTA game, be an OTA, bring in independent hotels. That didn't work too well. The independent hotels didn't really trust all their information and booking and all that data, going into a competitor, right? So, which is quite understandable. That's one of the risks, and they couldn't provide enough value add to overcome that negative. So, and what they do, they killed it. Pretty much, right? So, yeah.
So in the marketing world, and this goes back to our Google conversation, we talked about Google Travel.
Oh, the massive changes for the Google ads. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it reaffirms something we talked about on the show even a few weeks ago, that in not too long in the future, our need to actually manage bid structure on ad campaigns probably won't really exist.
Absolutely.
management won't really exist in its current form, at least, because Google with their smart bidding is going to be better, faster, smarter at it, because they have, and I have a great slide that I use in my presentation deck. They can calculate over 9,000, and this is a small number, 9,000 immediate variables within 100 milliseconds for exposure of marketing.
And if they could get it down to 50 milliseconds, then
I know,
maybe
right?
that'd be
If you
interesting.
got 100, let's get 50. Why can't you?
Yeah,
right?
Come on.
But their smart bidding process, their ability for featureability, timeliness, travel intent, all the data stuff we were talking about, demographic profiling, all that variabilities. Okay. And we know the number is bigger. That's the only number they commit to, that they say that these are variables that they construct into their smart bidding process. It's assumed that it's even larger. But 100 milliseconds, and it knows what ad, when, where, how, what place, what time, what piece of equipment to put it on. How, as a bidder, are you going to know how much you should be putting as monies and what your timings and opportunities should be? Because keep in mind, for those who handle paid campaigning, the amount you're willing to spend and the amount you're willing to pay for that exposure are your levers of discovery. They determine when it shows to somebody, on what it shows to somebody, and what is shown to that somebody. And if you're doing it by guesstimating value proposition, when Google's doing it in the milliseconds with more variables than you can keep track of, you're not going to win that argument. It beats you every time. And that's just one.
And that's where the whole AI machine learning thing really comes in, because it can access more data. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it understands the context of the history of that data and the interrelationships of that data much better than an individual could. And then again, you're saying 9,000 variables or something like that. It can pull all that stuff together fast and make a decision. And all of a sudden, all the experimentation of, hey, well, let's try this and let's do that and see how it works. The way this goes is the more data it has and the more experience, the better it gets. Right. Yeah. And so, playing catch up is hard.
Yeah. You're still going to, and of course, Bing, we pick on Bing all the time. It's restructured itself, just like, Microsoft restructured, no longer calling itself Bing. It's back to Microsoft marketing.
Really? They did?
Yeah, they're following the same suit. This is our company that runs everything. This is our company that does everything. But Bing is still powerful, because the thing you got to remember about Bing, and I'm going to keep calling it Bing for a while, I guess, is that you have less competition, so you have better conversion.
Right. So, exactly. It's small. It's a niche. It's a niche, but if other people are ignoring it, hey, that's great. If you can get incremental bookings or incremental traffic and things like that, go get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
for cheaper.
Yeah. So because you still have, hotels have a finite inventory every day. So where you get your business from to fill up that finite inventory, that's the magic process. Just because Google's the 85% of the world's search beast, or outside of China's beast, doesn't mean that you still can't get your rooms filled up with the 15% of the people, 14% of the people that use an alternative platform for discovery.
Yeah. Well, and Bing is still the consumer search brand for Microsoft. They aren't changing that, right? They've just changed the name of the marketing they've kind of pulled like the Google Ads or whatever, right? That's what they've changed the name, instead of AdWords or AdSense and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They went to Google Ads. So they've changed it to Microsoft ad platform or something like that.
Something, I forget. Okay. Yeah. The link that I put up there that you put up there.
Should we talk about these big changes that
let's run through real quick. I should wrap up our show at that point because there's 9 things to this, and this has really created a lot of turmoil for people, because obviously, for those who may not know, everybody like Facebook and Google and Apple all have their big annual conferences.
Right.
And Google's is IO9, and they just did their huge conference. And these are the 9 things that WordStream covered that you put into the article list.
Right.
That are changes that are coming to Google's marketing program. So
Right. And Rob Torres he was on stage for about 15 minutes talking about different things that they were doing with travel and things like that. I don't think they have the other things, but you can look up some of the case studies and things that they were mentioning on it too. So yeah, I don't have the link for it, but yeah, if you dig down through the Google I/O or Google Marketing Day, whatever they called the overall Marketing Live, right? Marketing Live 2019. If you look at that, you can go find Rob Torres's presentation, and then they have some links to some of the case studies and things like that he was covering off with Airbnb and Hertz and some other folks.
So the first one on this was fee-based advertising gets a facelift with Discovery ads. People may not know about this. Google Discover came out about last September. Now they're saying that there's a swipeable image carousel that you can do as Discovery ads in this engagement. Which is, as we talked about with toys and gadgets, the ability to diversify the content. Because again, it goes back to anybody that's done this stuff. The variations of your messaging is some of the hardest thing to come up with. The creative, the content, the accuracy of the content you're coming up with, that it's just not BS statements, but it has all interlinked keyword value propositions, content value propositions, guest value propositions. That's a hard stretch. I mean, that's where you spend monies for content developers and creative artists.
And normally your cost goes up with it, but the point that they highlighted was a subscription fashion retailer, right? Yeah, where you subscribe. Yeah, it's one of these like Birchbox type thing where you get stuff sent to you. But they had this group, Textile, experienced 25% lower costs per lead using Discovery ads compared to other channels. And so if you're a subscription service and you can reduce your cost per lead by 25%, probably something you should pay attention to, right? That is a massive savings for those folks, because but anyway, then they had their gallery ads.
Which is similar to Facebook. I mean, Facebook's had this for a while. So too LinkedIn.
Exactly.
You know, where you have this not just single imaging and single aspect or single messaging. You now have this ability to create an overview messaging and then have variations of things.
4 to 8 images. You can do 3 headlines for basically doing some A/B testing, and a 70 character tagline with each, which is that's pretty good. Kind of the image caption.
It's almost 3 times a lot of stuff to get. So you get
great.
Your message pretty good in there.
Yeah. And so then again, they said experience increase in user interactions up to 25%. So that's again, if you can improve the efficiency or, by 25%, that's maybe something you should consider.
Now, again, going back to the smart bidding thing, and I think some of the highlights out of this, one of the more important ones is one of the things that always keeps hotels paying for somebody to handle their paid campaigning is the constant fluctuations of business cycles, of event-driven things, seasonality things, improvements where some ad campaigns all of a sudden are striking a chord and they're improving. So there's always constant hand on the tiller about this. Well, smart bidding handles all that, including seasonality adjustments, where if you're pushing something based on a seasonal conversion opportunity, it actually knows that and will optimize your exposure and your bidding accordingly.
Right.
That's what you're eventually dealing with, as I said, is not having to necessarily pay as much to have somebody monitor your paid services when it comes to Google as much, and have less money spent to that and having more money spent in actual marketing dollars.
Well, and look at what Google's doing. They're going, well, these guys have an ad budget, and some agencies taking X percentage out to do this stuff and may not be even making the right decisions. We've talked about that on the show before, right? They're in there doing God knows what that they think might be a right thing, but who knows if they have the right data. And now Google can kind of go, well, we got data and we can do this stuff. And again, campaign level conversion goals is pretty interesting. If you have a single conversion goal, all of a sudden you can now optimize all these bids to address that particular goal. Or, you can now have these, what do they call them? Conversion action sets, where you can optimize these bids across campaigns, or, as you said, seasonality adjustments, things like that. Hugely important. I mean, that's where the online travel agencies are killing the hoteliers, right? Because they've got great data, and they've figured out the snowstorm has hit Boston, and based on their historic performance, the all-inclusive family resorts, you've got to do these things 2 days after it, or on the Friday night or whatever, things pick up. And you should increase your, go all in on those bids, because that's when people are really converting. And oh no, but not for the adults only all inclusives. That's going to be Sunday morning or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They're experimenting, and do they totally understand it? Does it work perfectly? No, but they're experimenting with it, seeing what works, get more efficient, and all of a sudden they have more efficient ad spend. They've got higher conversion rates. That's what it's all about, right?
And like I said, we do a lot of data correlation. The weather example is a perfect one where, as always with everything, especially in the Florida market, you come into November already having your campaigns built and content and creative already done. It's already in the breach, because as soon as that cold weather snap up north hits and stays, boom, that's when you start talking about warm and sunny. These are simple examples of it, but there's so many more nuances. I told you about us connecting to APIs for flight and correlating flight demands and inventory according to your hotel demands, and all event-driven things and seasonality improvements. There's data out there. Google's telling you that they're going to handle that when it comes to your bid structure. One less thing for you to do in relationship to them, and one thing they do more for you. So it's powerful for that.
But does it also, are you selling your soul to the devil?
You are. You flat out are. You are in their sandbox. It is no different than being Facebook sandbox or LinkedIn sandbox. It doesn't take away from the fact direct guest engagement, guest communication from you is still the most important asset that you can develop for yourself.
Yeah.
But like you said, with travel agents and OTAs and so forth, it's
folks you don't know, who've never heard of you. You can try doing it all your own. Just don't expect to be optimized where everything fills because if everything does fill every night and it's just your thing, either you're grossly underpriced. I mean, I don't think you're necessarily optimized. Maybe you are. Maybe you've completely figured it out, so every single night is perfectly optimized and you fill perfectly. But something's a little interesting there where everybody knows about you. I don't know. It's the Kardashians hotel or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe there's some sort of thing that you can go, Kanye performs in the lounge every night. I'm not sure. Right.
Yeah.
But maybe it's possible to do it, but not for most mere mortals. But one I did not like, YouTube bumper ads for everyone. I know from a marketing perspective, this is really amazing, but from a consumer of advertising perspective, it's like,
I know.
No.
But you know what? But it drives people to do exactly what Google wants them to, which is pay for the premium and you get less of this stuff.
That's right. And that's the tax of being able to avoid advertising.
What we're talking about with this thing today. You say, video ads are great. And I have this conversation with clients all the time. I'm like, great. We really love to get you into the YouTube space because it's a really great converting place. You have a beautiful product. We want to get people to see this stuff.
Yeah.
They don't have they have no content.
Right.
And then they always see it as, I got to hire this super expensive photographer to come in and do all these things with models and everything else. I'm like, you can go that route. And we're not saying you shouldn't have quality product, but a lot of times consumer content or just generating your own content is more than sufficient for doing things like this.
Yeah, and they have this bumper machine now. So any video shorter than 90 seconds, you can turn into a bumper ad. But
for
please don't.
Second videos. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And you can.
They've been productive for us on some things. We try not to overexploit it, but it's great stuff.
Yeah.
Marketing point of view.
Yeah.
Now, this one is a scary one because this puts Google in contention with Facebook, and Facebook has a limitation of exposure that Google doesn't have when it comes to ad space. And this is they're blending their custom affinity and custom intent into custom audiences. Now, it's been really cool with Google's affinity and intent programs, but you always felt like you're getting half the equation or part of the equation. But now with its blending, you're going to feel like, oh my gosh, everything that Google knows about them will be used into the optimization of the ad exposure.
Yep. And and again, Google's relying on people sharing their information, trusting Google, and adding convenience to that individual's life to continue sharing. Google Maps is a great example, right? I mean, they know exactly where you are, how you're going, if you're walking, if you're driving, they can figure out all this sort of stuff, where you go repeatedly. It figures all that stuff out. And yes, you can turn off your history and you can do all sorts of stuff. But what are they doing with all this information? They're figuring out traffic flows and going, hey, don't go that way, go the other way. You're going to save 2 minutes.
And then it brings up to the next progression that was also Facebook stronghold, and that was lookalike audiences. And Google says,
absolutely,
because we're going to do expanded audience expansion tools just like Facebook's lookalike. And for those who may not know what it is, a custom audience with Facebook is where you give Facebook email addresses, and Facebook tells you whether they know them based on that email address or not. You don't know them individually, but everything about them, Facebook that knows, now turns into a filterable way of advertising to them. Well, their real expansion to that is lookalikes, which says I think they have 55,000 points of data reference is the last number I heard from them. But to be within 1% identical to the people that you give them the custom audience to, they create what's called a lookalike. So you can take a list of a couple of thousand and turn that into a million people that are demographically almost identical to the people that have already used your product. But
they love Italian opera and punk rock, for God's sakes.
Right. And then tailor them geographically, demographically, whatever it is that you want to create the filterings for ad campaigns to a whole new audience that has probably the propensity to come stay with you. Well, now Google is saying, I got you back. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to create an audience expansion tool.
And then with the ability to do testing on this, you can start saying, oh, well, let's do some multivariate stuff. Those are those guys, the punk rock and Italian opera lovers. And, oh, well, let's see, do they also love Game of Thrones and Harry Potter or whatever sort of correlation across all of these signals, right? And you go, oh, no, they hate Game of Thrones, but love Harry Potter. Or, there's Star Trek versus Star Wars. Who the hell knows? And a lot of the stuff can't be intuitive because there's just too much data to figure out. Too many variables. And again, if you can start figuring out these predictive things and going, hey, if you look at this and going, this has a high probability of causation, not just correlation. We figured out there may be some causation here where there's purchase intent. These signals signify purchase intent. Go for it. And then the next one, Google Shopping, they now have clickable, you can buy things straight from the shopping interface.
I don't know. Are they trying to fight against the Nile? No, that's Amazon, the river.
Exactly. So anyway, local campaigns for everyone, shopping showcase. And you go, well, okay, what's this mean for hotels? Hey, remember when the Google Hotel Ads platform got moved into Google Ads? Yeah. Now all of a sudden you have, if not all of this, a whole big chunk of it available, which makes a lot of sense. So
it's noteworthy stuff. This is the changing mainstream of our marketing world, literally why we're doing the show every week, because these are momentous shifts and functionalities on the biggest scale for everyone. When you talk about Amazon doing flights in India, when you talk about Google doing these types of things, you're talking about how we do business is moving and shifting. Because if Amazon does get into the space as another means of booking, the dynamics that it creates for that, the Google of the world saying, we're going to handle all of your bidding from us. From now on, we're not even going to allow you. Just like we took away keywords 8 years ago, we're going to take away bidding control. You're not going to be allowed to bid control with us because we're going to do it better than you, which will always save you money. And, it's our platform anyway. It's our sandbox, so we're going to do that. And you're not going to say no because if you want the business that it drives, which is 85% of all search, you're going to play in their sandbox. These things are going to happen. It's how we use them and handle them and realize we can't stick our head in the sand and we can't go over and say, well, screw you, I'm not going to use you, like the TWA hotel for OTAs, because eventually you're going to have to realize that the market is still the market and you have to play where the people are.
Right. And if travel agent, in the case of the TWA hotel, if these guys are legitimately, creating value and giving you greater reach and producing a higher quality guest, where I think that's going to be the ultimate battle is where you can go find people to maybe stay in your hotel through a lot of these but how do you find the best quality guests who are staying longer, spending more, engaging, better suited to us, sharing the info? How do you get that developed, and that requires a lot of your own data to figure that stuff out, because Google doesn't necessarily have access to all of that stuff. I mean, then you've got to really merge these things together and figure out how do we do it. A great example, when I was with Mark Travel, Expedia was coming on strong into Las Vegas, and Mark Travel used to generate 3 million passengers a year into Vegas, because they were flying 737s into there from all the Rust Belt cities and things like that, all these charters. Well, lower cost carriers, things like that came on, and fortunately Mark Travel had Southwest Vacations, right, which was picking up a lot of that stuff. But what happened? Expedia starts going up. Well, we marched in and met with all the casino folks and said, hang on, we've done some research and we've looked at the quality of the Expedia guest versus the kind of tour operator guest, which is being generated out of the travel agency industry and things like that. And you go, let's take a look at that. Oh, who's going to more shows? Who's eating out more? Who's getting upgraded accommodations? Who's losing more, or not necessarily losing more? Let's just say the way we phrased it, playing more, right? And that's all a casino wants, is sit down at the table and allocate more time to play and wagering, right? You know, who's wagering the most? It was all these tour operator guests, and we're like, well, you know, we understand that, you know, you're working with them, and that's great. If they're producing value for you, we aren't going to say don't work with them and not us. That would be stupid. But look at the quality of the guest we're providing, and that gets people's attention, right? And you go, yeah, how do we do it? Do resorts really do that very effective? Destination resorts? I don't know. Some cases, yeah. For the people they really know. But, you know, how do you get that to these really high quality consumers who are going to love your product, share it, spend a lot of money, love your brand, be willing to pay a premium for your brand because they love you so much? That's where you need to ultimately get to. And those are going to be the battlegrounds once everybody's weaponized with all these tools, right? To go, you know, shoot at everyone. So we'll see. Is it time to do the rut row?
And we got to do a quick rut row because I got to jump here real fast. So we'll do the rut row so we can wrap up.
This is an important rut row. I mean, this in not a negative sense, but by God, Taco Bell is opening a Taco Bell themed hotel in Palm Springs this summer, right? Which is not necessarily peak season in Palm Springs.
No, it's about 120 degrees season
in August, right? Now, what I don't know about this, I was really tempted to reach out to Taco Bell to find out more. It's for a limited time, right? So it's like, wait a second. So what facility are they using for this hotel? It's got to be closed to. It's got to be some sort of seasonal resort where
it's like Dallas, closed for the Arts District over there on the other side of the river. There's the buildings that they rotate out the restaurants in there. They're temporary restaurants. Right. They rotate out of it.
Yep.
Maybe Palm Springs is trying to do something like that, and Taco Bell's going to take advantage of it. I know that their slogan, "Run for the border," isn't their slogan anymore.
Right. But they said they want to be clear. It isn't a stunt, but it's part of Taco Bell's wider strategy of moving the brand beyond typical fast food experience. Let me tell you, and I'm ashamed as a parent that something went horribly wrong with the raising of my younger daughter, but she's been living in Florence for the last several months, studying abroad. Florence rated number 2 in the world for like best cities for food, and she's enjoying all of that. But one thing she has missed, she wants her first thing back from the airplane. 2 things, Taco Bell and Chick-fil-A. And it's like, no, how did that happen?
You're the one to blame for that, Robert. You're the one to blame.
I can only blame myself, because
you
can't ever blame the kids. You can't ever blame the kids. You only blame the parents.
Well,
right?
For how they turn. I'm just going to blame you because your wife's a saint for lots of reasons. One, of course, being married to you.
Yeah, that's true. And actually, I think she's more of a Taco Bueno versus Taco Bell person.
Actually, I love Taco Bueno. I
like Taco. Yeah, Taco Bueno is better. Taco Bell, not high on the. It's like
Taco Bueno's big ass taco.
Really? Yeah. So anyway, I don't.
No, it is. It's a BA taco. It's
yeah. Yep. So anyway, Taco Bell is doing a hotel. And I think it's interesting I would be not from the branding, that thing. I mean, that's fun and goofy and all that stuff, which is great. And I think it will be successful. There is a cult of Taco Bell. I mean, strong follower. But I'm really interested from the pop-up concept from a real estate development, lodging utilization. Here is a time when most people really don't want to be in Palm Springs, pretty clearly. It's not nice that time of year.
Unless from a perspective, if it has